hope everyone's doing good. A real quick video to go over asymptotes and hyperbolas. So I did not copy the page with the paragraph explaining asymptotes onto this. You can read through that on your own. But in general, a horizontal asymptote is we'd graph it as a dotted line because it's imaginary, that your graph gets closer and closer and closer to, but never really touches it. And then a vertical asymptote, same idea. It's a vertical line that your graph gets closer and closer to, but never really touches it. So what we've been looking at are hyperbolas. So we have 1 over x plus 2. We have talked about this in class by now, and we know that you can't divide by 0. You cannot have 1 over 0. That is not okay. Well, then the question is, what would make this turn into 1 over 0? Or what would make x plus 2 equal 0? A little super quick math probably in your head would give you that x equals -2 would make that happen. So at -2, you have an asymptote. We draw asymptotes as dotted lines. Also, because there is an imaginary plus 0 at the end of this, technically there is a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. We'll talk about that a little more in later chapters. And then we know that our hyperbolas, when they're positive, they're in this corner. Oops, nope, I crossed the asymptote. That's not allowed. Hug the asymptote and curve along. And then in the opposite corner. Hug the asymptote and curve down. We will talk about these in much more depth in later chapters. See if you can do the same thing for example 2. What would be your vertical asymptote? X equals what? What makes the bottom 0? You should just be able to look at the equation and answer that. What would I plug in so that when I minus 4, I get an answer of 0? X equals 4 would make that 0, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. A dotted line, an imaginary asymptote. Again, so far in this chapter, we've got an imaginary plus 0, which means there is an asymptote here as well. We'll talk about that later. Positive, so it's in the top right corner, hugging those asymptotes, bottom right corner. So if this was on Desmos, I encourage you guys to go to desmos.com and use their calculator, and you zoomed in and zoomed in and zoomed in, that curve would never touch x equals 4. Because if you plug in x equals 4, you get undefined. You cannot plug in x equals 4 into this equation.